Alright guys, Bit here again today. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's video. It was on predictions for CWL Anaheim. We're going to continue that train of thoughts today. So yes, yesterday I talked briefly about the Optic Gaming situation. Jacob Wolf at ESPN reported that they have in fact been, well, Infinite Esports has been sold on to Immortals, and you know, later that evening, this old guard was announced. I thought I'd go through it briefly before we get on with the content of today's video. So yeah, like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you are new as always. Thanks for leaving all your comments on yesterday's video about your predictions. Very interesting indeed. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will leave it linked down below as always. So let's go on to this old guard thing. The idea here is that because the Optic Gaming brand may or may not be lost, it's as yet unclear whether Hector Rodriguez, Hex, will be able to buy it back off Immortals, but it does seem like they own it as of now. And as Hitch said in a video, he's kind of, you know, worried that Immortals will kind of, not necessarily corrupt the Optic Gaming brand, but to some degree allow people into Optic Gaming and use the Optic Gaming brand in a way that has not represented the values and, well, kind of the family that Optic has represented over the years. But of course, that is, I guess, likely to occur to some degree. So they've set up this old guard. Currently, it seems like the members are, so this is Aaron Crate, we have Maniac, of course, Hitch, Embos, what a guy, and Big Timer. So, I'm not sure if there's anyone else in it, I don't know too much about this, but I do think the idea is really, really cool. I love the name, I think Old Guard is fantastic, of course. The idea is it's OG, something to do with Optic Gaming, the Green Wall, but not too close to Optic Gaming as that Immortals could potentially sue for, you know, copyright infringement. So we'll have to see how that goes. I think the logo could be better, but I guess it can't be too close to what Optic Gaming was, because otherwise Immortals could just sue them. So I thought this is very interesting. If you want to follow their Twitter, I'll leave it linked down below. They also have a website, and there's some things scrolling on here as well. Might not be able to see all of it on screen, but yeah, here's another picture. And then you've got Embos is like his new merch and stuff. So there's some interesting things going on. But yeah, I thought I'd at least mention that because there's, you know, some part of the old Optic is going to be living on through the old guard, it seems like. And I mean, big T's in there, man. You can't help but love it. So let's go on to Anaheim. These are the pools. Of course, I've talked through these for the last couple of days. Optic Heretics, EG Denial, and well, I won't go through them all again. Today I wanted to go through my top 5 players to watch. I usually like doing top 5s because there's probably at least like 15 that I could pick out here that have some sort of interesting storyline going on, but you guys do that work for me in the comment section below. So I thought I'd pick up my 5 favourites, my 5 most interesting stories, I think, from the well, from the individual players in the teams, and you know, we'll see how they perform this weekend. It's going to be a very exciting one. So firstly, before we get into it, just wanted to go through some statistics here from Easy Mac, of course, Austin. These are linked down, well, his Twitter will be linked down below. You can find all these tweets on there. So thought I'd go through this. It might give you an inkling as to the direction I'm going with this, but usually in these top 5s, I like to look at some players which are expected to perform very, very well, going to be very exciting to watch, some players that have not necessarily been performing, some players who have been in a lull as of late, and some players who have been on really good form, and so you guys can have some eyes on which kind of performances to keep your eyes on, and who's the X factor for their team kind of is usually what I go for here. So firstly, some statistics. I know you guys probably like looking through stats, so yes, these are the main Sorg KDs from the Pro League. A little bit interesting here because, you know, it depends what you're defining as a Sorg. On E United, we have a BZ defined as their main Sorg, but then, you know, Simp does also use it a lot, even though occasionally pulls out a Maddox, so it's also always a little bit interesting. Hook's still up here at a 1.13, Optic Scump at a 1.07. Very impressive, to be honest. There was a Reddit thread about this, I think, yesterday, and the idea was talking about how, well, Scump is a crash SMG. He doesn't use Ruin like a lot of them do, so he has arguably less free kills every game than someone gets if he uses Ruin. Obviously, he is a little bit of a slower Sorg. I think TJ tends to be more of the cracked one when he uses it on the team. But yeah, still very good. We'll go through that in a couple of minutes time here. So then we have the Maddox KDs, Scraps and Celium, just deadly right now. A very interesting storyline to look out for here is who has the best Maddox duo in the game. Of course, Karma and Dashi down here, but Scraps and Celium on terms of their KDs and what they did in the league were just crushing it. So we'll have to see how it goes this weekend. Of course, Slasher and Kenny also have to be names for consideration. And then the main ICRs, Octane, Phantom, Zero, These are the big guys up there, of course, Krim as well, and then it kind of drops off after that. So here we go. These are all the teams we're going to be looking at this weekend. 100 Thieves, Denial, Elevate. Well, Denial technically not under Denial. So let's go on to my first pick. Now, it's going to be Brack. There's a lot of different players, obviously, we could talk about here. There's plenty of players I could pick from 100 Thieves. Maybe even Slasher. He's been playing very well as of late. I wanted to look at Brack, though, because right now, Denial is not under an organization. They're not under contract, which means I don't even know where their money's coming from. Maybe MLG pays them something just in reserve for the fact that they don't have an organization right now, but they're not on a contract, so it's obviously difficult. Apparently they're looking for an organisation. MLG is supposedly going to help them do that, but it's difficult to say whether an organisation will swoop in, because what's the point paying, I don't know, say you have to pay 25 grand to buy the spot off, I think it owns the players right now, but earlier in the season when Denial bought the spot off Overtime, I think they paid something like 40,000 euros, so even if it's something in that ballpark, what's the point in a big organisation coming in to pay 30 grand and then just to lose the spot at the end of the season when it franchises? Or for a franchise team, I guess they're already spending 25 million, so what's an extra 30,000? But they may feel like that's pretty pointless to swoop in now when you could just wait until the start of the next season. So just have to see how it goes. I wanted to highlight Brack here, though, because he has been the one who's been performing very, very well on this team. These are the stats, of course, courtesy of, well, the stats are courtesy of EasyMac, graphics courtesy of Lineman, all these links down below. So these are the statistics from the weeks 9 to 10 of Team Pinnington, not technically Denial anymore. And yes, Brack obviously has been leading up the statistics line, and what's very interesting here is that he's been playing very well. I think on the whole, the team's been a little bit up and down. Their performances haven't been great overall for most of the rest of the guys. Alex has been doing quite well, Banter's had his moments, and so have the other guys really, but Brack's definitely been the standout, as he has been all season on most of the teams that he's been on. Even that Midnight team at the start of the year, Envoy and Brack were really the two guys making most of the noise. So obviously, very, very interesting, and if Brack, you know, if he really performs well, that's what I'm keeping my eyes on. If he really crushes at this event and his team doesn't do so well, then we can very much expect to see a roster change coming in, because Brack supposedly will have and does have offers from other organisations, other teams, when the roster change period opens. This team, I think, would have to do very well, and his team around him would have to do very well in order for him to stay, but something to keep an eye on, because if Brack performs really well, and we get a similar situation as to what we're seeing here, you can definitely imagine Brack is going to be leaving that team sooner rather than later. The second pick I've got for you is Prestini. That's because he's been performing incredibly well on this E-United squad as of late. Of course, there's some other players you can mention here, you know, the likes of Skies, Breezy very well on Elevate, and there's definitely other players to look at, but I wanted to look at Prestini here because he's been performing great. Once again, these are courtesy of Lionman, and yeah, these are from Pro Leagues weeks 9 and 10. Clay's been doing very well overall, especially in his Search and Destroy has been spectacular. Simp, of course, is right up there, but Prestini, bang up there as well. Usually he's not the guy to be putting up these crazy numbers that he has been. Of course, his stats overall don't look incredible, but in terms of impact, you can really see that he's having a great impact on the map, and occasionally he'll completely take over a game. Lately, I think he's been playing really, really well, so for me, he's right up there with Simp right now as their best performing player, and the fact that you've got a BZ, Arcetes, and Clayster to fall back on is just fantastic. So really what I'd keep my eyes on here is Prestini being this X factor for their team. If Prestini continues to play well, you know what you're going to get out of Simp. I think Clayster's a pretty solid individual. You know, Simp and Abizi as a duo are great, and Arcetes is just going to crush it on the assault rifle as he normally does. So Prestini, I think, is the X factor on this team. Pretty emotional player. If he's playing very well, I think E-United are a very scary force indeed. So that's why I'd be keeping your eyes on him this weekend. My third pick is going to be Nagafen on Gen G. Now this pick is interesting. If we look once again at these statistics, hope you guys enjoy that I'm doing this, by the way. I don't usually go down this route, but I thought these were so beautiful, the graphics from Lionman, that I had to go down this route. But these are the statistics from weeks 7 and 8 where Gen G did not have a good time of things at all, and it's Nagafen down here with the, you know, the poorest stats on the team. Now, of course, a lot of people have been talking about here, will a roster change come in? Envoy, I think, is unreplaceable, fantastic player. So is Maniac, I think so is Morks, really a great assault rifle, and I think Havoc as well on the SMG. Honestly, I think those four, you're not going to replace. If there's anyone you're going to replace, it's got to be Nagafen on this team if you are going to make a roster change. And of course, Gunless is sitting there on the bench at LG, not going to be attending Anaheim as far as we're aware. Pretty damn sure he's not going to be. So that means other teams are surely going to have Gunless in their radar because, well, Gunless, he might not be the best teammate to get along with, as we've seen on Luminosity, but he is one of the best players in the game and has won multiple championships, including one earlier this year, 3 last year, and, you know, just a great player. So what else can you do but change out Nagafen if you are going to go down that route? Of course, it's very interesting. People have been talking about whether that would be a decent change or not a little bit ago, because of course Spacey was on this team earlier in the season when they did not lose a search and destroy in that very first split. He was on the team instead of Envoy at the time, and they were pretty damn good, but I don't think that level was ever going to maintain itself. Whether this team needs a kind of leadership figure, getting rid of Nagafen, putting Gunless in, it may not be the best change if they don't have someone to calm all the heads down. Maybe Joey Nubsy as coach feels like he can take on that role, but that's what I'd be keeping your eyes out for. If Nagafen doesn't perform this weekend, if Gen.G don't do great, I can definitely see a change coming in, whether it's for Gunless or whether it's for somebody else. If there's anyone who is the most replaceable on this team right now, you'd have to say it's Nagafen, I believe. So moving onwards right here, we have my fourth pick, and it's going to be Scump of Optic Gaming. As I talked about with these statistics here, he's got great stats these last couple of weeks, especially because he has been this crash SMG compared to what most of the other guys do. He's maybe not the most flashy of the SMGs this year, but he did play very well for the majority of London. A little bit of a drop off at Fort Worth, but over the whole of the year, he's been pretty damn good overall. So be interesting to see if he can get back to form here at Anaheim for what he's shown in previous years, because Advanced Warfare considered the best SMG in the game. Black Ops 3, especially early Black Ops 3, definitely was. Infinite Warfare, towards the end, he was definitely up there with the best SMGs in the game. He is using Crash, so his statistics obviously are probably a little bit better than they appear on paper. And I would say he's probably one of the big X factors on this team right now, because Dashi, you know what you're going to get out of him. I was thinking about using him as a player to watch here, because obviously the first little bit of the Pro League that he actually could play in was phenomenal. The last couple of weeks hasn't been so strong on the Maddox compared to what we're used to see. Still putting up a 1.2, don't get me wrong, but, not the same stats that Scraps and Celium have had, so maybe people are thinking, if Dashi going to get back to that 1.3 level, that's going to really propel Optic. Definitely possible, especially because they went 7-0 with Dashi dropping a 1.2 rather than a 1.3, so shows that Optic are in a very good state right now. I think what Crim6 and Karma are going to bring to the table is very, very solid, so I think really Scump and TJ are the guys where, those kind of X factors. When they were doing very well at London early on, those guys were the ones going off, so it's really whether they can do that again here, I think, at CWL Anaheim, as to whether, how things are going to go. Final player to watch then, it's got to be Decimate on this Team Envious squad, because, well, he has not been performing great the last couple of weeks. If we look at Lion Man scoreboards, or the stats from EasyMac and the graphics from Lion Man, we see the following. Hook up here at great stats overall, and the rest of the guys have been very, very lackluster from what you expect from them. You know what you're going to get out of Aches. I wouldn't expect too much different, especially when they're losing, but the fact that the rest of the guys are just not putting up numbers at all. Silly had a really atrocious couple of weeks as well, but I would expect him to bounce back. Would I expect the same out of Decimate? We'll just have to see, because Ferro has been pretty solid. Desi has really been the one struggling these last couple of weeks, especially how good he was early on in the year, and he very much crushed it at London. So I don't exactly know what's gone on the last couple of weeks, but his performance has not been up to par at all, nowhere near the caliber that Envy really needs, because Who Can Decimate could be, the best SMG duo in the game, up there with Simp and Abizi, but on recent form hasn't been the case at all. So I'm really keeping my eyes on Decimate to see how well he can perform this weekend. It's an exciting prospect to see how well Envy will do. Of course, they have a very difficult pool over here with, let me just zoom out 1 second so you can see the entire thing. So 100 Thieves, Gen.G, Team Envy, and Luminosity. A lot of people calling this the pool of death. I did enjoy yesterday's video. A lot of people calling many different pools the pool of death. People saying Pool A's the pool of death, Pool C, Pool D, and even Pool B, with Elevate potentially causing a ruckus over there, as they have been doing recently. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you are new as always. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time.
Located. She's done.
Full bar. It's all on you. One hostile remains. We're taking A. Taking the lead. Mission objectives green across the board. Take them out.